The evening sun was fading over Ijaye market, painting the sky gold and red. The smell of roasted meat drifted through the air, mixing with the sound of traders shouting and buses honking. But above every other aroma, one stood out: the unforgettable smell of Madame Aduke's pump meat. Her stand was small, just a wooden table with a smoking grill. But people came from far and wide to buy from her. Students, drivers, market women, even policemen would line up, waiting for a taste. Madame Aduke, Abig add pepper for me. Not only your meat day sweet for this town. Aduke would laugh softly, turning the sticks with her long fork. She was a woman in her 50s, plump and neat, always wrapping her hair with a red scarf. Her face was kind, her voice gentle, but her eyes, when you looked too long, had something strange in them. Something cold. Her pump meat never finished. No matter how many customers came, she always had more. And no one ever saw her buy fresh meat in the market. Everyone loved her business. Everyone except Tenny, her young neighbor. Tenny ran a small phone accessories stall beside Aduke's stand. She admired her at first, a hardworking woman, always busy, always cheerful. But after a while, Tenny began to notice things that didn't make sense. Aduke never went to the abattoir. She never carried any cooler of meat in the morning yet. Every day, she had trays full of fresh ones to roast. One night, as Tenny was locking her stall, she saw Aduke walking toward the back of her compound carrying a black nylon bag that dripped something dark. At first, Tenny thought it was water. But when she smelled the air, there was a faint scent like blood mixed with smoke. Her heart skipped. She tried to brush it off, telling herself it was just goat meat. But then came the crying, soft, faint, broken like the whimper of a newborn baby. It came from behind Aduke's house. Tenny froze. She wanted to run, but her legs refused to move. The sound lasted only a few seconds, then stopped suddenly. By the next morning, Aduke was smiling as usual, fanning her fire. The smell of fried meat filling the street. Tenny, my dear, try this one, she said, handing her a stick of meat. Fresh from the fire. Tenny smiled nervously. Thank you, Ma. She took it and walked back to her stall. The meat looked perfect, juicy, spicy, glistening with oil. She bit into it, and for a moment, her taste buds danced. But just as she swallowed, she felt a cold chill rush through her chest. And in the faint crackle of Aduke's fire, she thought she heard it again, a baby's cry, hidden beneath the sound of sizzling meat. The market was quiet that night. The only sounds were the croaking frogs and the distant hum of generators. Tenny lay awake on her mat, staring at the ceiling. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the same image: that steaming stick of pump meat and the faint echo of a baby crying behind Aduke's house. She told herself she was imagining things, but something in her spirit wouldn't rest. Around 2 a.m. a strange smell drifted through her window, thick smoke, mixed with palm oil and something metallic, something that didn't belong. Her heart started beating fast. She stood up, tiptoed to the window, and peeped outside. A dim red glow flickered from the back of Aduke's compound, the same place she heard the sound the night before. Tenny swallowed hard, then reached for her small torchlight. She opened her door quietly, praying the hinges wouldn't creak. The night air was cool and heavy. Somewhere far away, a dog barked, then went silent. She moved closer to the fence that divided her compound from Aduke's. The glow grew brighter. She could see smoke rising and shadows moving. Then she heard it again, that same sound, soft, broken, human, a cry. But this time, it wasn't alone. There was also a low hum. Someone was singing, a woman's voice. Aduke's voice. Sleep well, little one, your journey dawn finished. Tenny froze. Every part of her body screamed to run, but her legs stayed rooted. She slowly peeked through a small crack in the wooden fence. Behind Aduke's house was a small hut, one that Tenny had never noticed before. A weak lantern burned inside, its light flickering against the mud walls. Aduke was kneeling before something, a big clay pot covered with white cloth. In front of her, smoke rose from a small fire built from palm leaves and herbs. Tenny's breath caught. Aduke lifted the cloth slightly, muttering strange words under her breath. Then she dropped something small into the pot. The fire hissed, the baby's cry stopped. Silenced, Tenny stumbled backward, her heart pounding so hard she thought it would burst. She ran back to her room and locked the door, trembling all over when dawn came. She didn't tell anyone who would believe her. Later that morning, as she about to open her shop, Aduke was already at her stand, smiling, cheerful, frying fresh pump meat as if nothing happened. "Good morning, my dear," Aduke greeted warmly. "You look tired, didn't sleep well." Tenny forced a smile. "Why, yes, ma. Just small headache," Aduke chuckled. "You need strength. Take this one on the house." She handed Tenny another stick of meat, hot and glistening. With all Tenny looked at it, her fingers shook for the first time. She couldn't bring herself to eat it. She simply nodded and whispered, "Thank you, ma." As she turned to leave, she noticed something chilling, a small white thread tied around Aduke's wrist. It looked old and stained with something dark. Tenny's heart skipped. She knew that whatever was happening in that compound was far from ordinary, and she was going to find out the truth, even if it cost her everything. Days passed, but Tenny couldn't shake off what she saw that night. Every time she heard the sound of Aduke's frying pan, she felt her stomach twist. The whole street smelled of roasted pepper and hot palm oil. Yet to her, it smelled like secrets. Aduke remained her usual cheerful self, smiling, laughing, selling. Nobody in the market could ever guess that behind those soft eyes she was watching, always watching, because that was what Aduke did best. She watched whenever a woman in the neighborhood got pregnant. Aduke became unusually kind. She would visit with gifts, bread, soap, little cloths for the baby. She would smile, pray, and tell them, "May your baby come safely, my dear." But her kindness always had timing. She appeared during the late months of pregnancy, when the woman's belly was almost due, and then, when the baby arrived, something strange would always happen. Either the baby fell sick mysteriously, or the mother was suddenly rushed to the hospital, only to wake up confused, being told her child didn't make it. And the same week, Aduke's pump meat stand would have a new flavor. People said the taste became even sweeter, richer, as if heaven touched it. Tenny started noticing a pattern. She didn't want to believe it, but the signs were everywhere. Every time a newborn went missing in the town hospital, Aduke's business bloomed double. So Tenny began to follow her one evening. She pretended to close her shop early. She hid behind a kiosk near Aduke's compound. Waiting at exactly 8:30 p.m., Aduke locked her gate and came out, carrying her brown handbag and a black nylon. A kick stopped by the junction. She entered quickly. Tenny quietly followed on a bike. The kick drove through the narrow streets and finally stopped near a small private maternity home. Blessing Care Clinic. The lights were dim, but someone was standing by the back door, a nurse. Tenny's heart skipped. Aduke walked up to her and handed her an envelope. The nurse quickly tucked it into her uniform pocket, glancing around nervously. Then she whispered something and pointed inside. Aduke nodded, lifted the black nylon, and both of them disappeared through the back door. Tenny's hands trembled. She couldn't see what was happening inside, but she heard muffled voices, then silence, then a faint, heart-piercing cry. Minutes later, Aduke came out again holding the same black nylon, only this time it was heavier. The nurse followed her out and whispered, "Remember, madam, nobody must know. We no do this again." Oh, Aduke smiled faintly. "Don't worry, Nurse Efe, you'll still get your share." Then she entered the kick and left. Tenny stood frozen, her heart beating in her ears. She felt cold all over. She didn't need to open that nylon to know what was inside that night. She couldn't sleep. She kept hearing Aduke's voice in her head, calm, gentle, deadly. "May your baby come safely, my dear, by morning." The smell of frying pump meat filled the air again. People gathered at her stall, laughing, eating, licking their fingers. Tenny watched from a distance, her eyes burning with tears and fear. She knew the truth now, but who would believe her, the quiet young girl beside the smiling woman who fed the whole town? Aduke caught her eyes across the crowd and smiled, that same sweet, harmless smile. Tenny looked away quickly because deep down, she knew something for sure. That smile was the most dangerous thing in Ijaye. The days turned into weeks, and Tenny's fear grew stronger each night. She still heard faint noises from Aduke's compound, sometimes the cry of a baby, sometimes the sound of running water and soft singing, but the next morning, the fire would burn again, smoke curling above Aduke's stand as she roasted her pump meat. The smell filled the air, rich, peppery, irresistible. People laughed, bought, and ate with joy. Nobody knew what Tenny knew. She had seen the nurse she had followed Aduke to the clinic. She had heard the baby's cry. Now she watched Aduke closely, and something else became clear the way. Aduke looked at pregnant women. Whenever a woman passed with a swollen belly, Aduke's eyes would soften, but not with love. It was hunger, quiet, dangerous hunger. Her gaze would follow them until they disappeared down the road. Sometimes she would even ask, "When are you due, my dear boy or girl?" Then she would smile sweetly and give them free sticks of meat. The women would laugh, grateful, but Tenny saw what others couldn't. So she started warning them. She would whisper softly whenever she saw a pregnant woman buying from Aduke. "My sister, please don't. Go to that clinic near the junction. Don't let anyone come near your baby when you deliver." The women would look confused, some laughed, some nodded politely, but didn't listen. Tenny, you don't want me to eat Aduke's meat again. That woman is like a mother to everyone, one said. Tenny sighed. "You don't understand, just be careful." But no one believed her that night. She sat by her window, staring at Aduke's flickering lantern. The woman was counting money and humming softly. Then Aduke suddenly looked up straight toward Tenny's window and smiled deep. Knowing smile, Tenny's chest tightened. Had she noticed, had she found out that Tenny was warning people? The next morning, something strange happened. Aduke walked to Tenny's stall carrying a small cooler. "My dear neighbor," she said warmly, "you've been working hard. Take, I kept this special portion for you." Tenny stared at the cooler. "Thank you, Ma, but I'm fine." Aduke smiled wider. "It's just meat. You know I don't like waste." Her tone was gentle, but her eyes weren't. Tenny's hands trembled. "No, Ma, I just don't have appetite this morning." Aduke stared at her for a long moment, then finally said, "You've changed. Tenny, you used to like my food before. Be careful. My dear, some people in this town gossip too much. Don't let them spoil your mind." She turned and walked away, her red scarf fluttering behind her. Tenny watched her go, her heart pounding hard. She knew what that warning meant from that day. The air between them changed. Aduke still smiled, still roasted meat, still greeted everyone kindly, but her eyes lingered too long on Tenny. And every time a new baby was born in the neighborhood, Tenny would lie awake all night, praying that the crying wouldn't stop suddenly. Because when it did the next morning, Aduke's fire always burned brighter, and the smell of her pump meat filled the town once again. Tenny had reached her breaking point. Each night the same thing happened, faint cries in the dark, then silence, then by morning, the smell of fresh pump meat floating across the market. She couldn't pretend anymore. Something had to be done. But Aduke was smart too smart. She had wrapped the whole neighborhood around her finger. Everyone loved her, trusted her, and believed she was harmless. If Tenny shouted now, nobody would believe her. They'd only say, "Jealousy day worrying that small girl." So Tenny decided to gather proof. That week, a young couple moved into the area, BC and her husband, Dealey. BC was 8 months pregnant, full of life and laughter. Aduke immediately noticed her from the first day. She began visiting with gifts. "My dear, I love babies. When you deliver, I must cook something sweet for you." Tenny's stomach tightened the first time she heard that. She waited until Aduke left, then went to BC's house. "Please, Auntie BC, don't let her come near you when you give birth," she whispered urgently. BC laughed. "Why, she's a nice woman." Tenny lowered her voice. "She's not what she looks like. Just promise me don't go to that small clinic near the junction. No matter what happens." BC nodded slowly, a little confused, but she promised. 3 days later, Tenny put her plan in motion. She borrowed a small phone from a friend, one with a working camera, and kept it hidden near the back of Aduke's compound, where the strange things always happened that night. The air was heavy with clouds, Thunder rumbled in the distance. Tenny waited silently in her room, watching through the window. At exactly 2:15 a.m., Aduke's back door creaked open. The same nurse from before Nurse Efe slipped inside. Carrying a small white bundle, Aduke met her at the door, counting money. Tenny pressed record. Her hands trembled. She couldn't see clearly, but the voices were loud enough. Nurse Efe whispered, "Madam, this one no easier. I nearly get caught." The Mother Day shouts say she wouldn't see her pickin'. Aduke hissed quietly, "Keep her quiet here. Take your balance, we can't stop now. Tonight is special." Tenny's heart pounded. She knew. She had what she needed. She grabbed the phone and ran to her friend's house at the corner of the street. "Please," she gasped, "help me copy this video. I need to copy." Her friend didn't understand why, but she helped by dawn. Tenny hid one copy under her mattress and another in her sewing box that morning. Aduke acted normal. She greeted everyone with smiles, fanned her fire, and roasted meat for the crowd. But when her eyes met Tenny's, she paused for a second. Her smile froze, then she laughed softly. "Tenny, my dear, you're early today. Come and eat." Tenny shook her head. "No, thank you." Matt Aduke's smile widened. Then she leaned closer and said quietly, "Some things are better left alone. My dear, curiosity can bring trouble." Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were dark, heavy with threat. Tenny forced a smile and stepped back. "I understand, Ma, but inside." She knew Aduke was right about one thing. Trouble was coming because she had said the trap, and soon the truth about the pump meat would no longer be hidden. The sun had gone down over Ijaye town. Shadows stretched across the street, and the usual laughter from Aduke's stall sounded softer that night. She was smiling. Yes, but behind that smile, something was boiling. She had noticed she wasn't stupid for weeks. Tenny had been avoiding her, whispering to mothers, glancing too long at her compound. And now people had started asking questions at the clinic. Aduke sat by her fire, turning the meat slowly. Her eyes cold. "Little girl," she muttered under her breath, "you think you can play with me?" She had a plan tonight. She would end it. Around 8:30 p.m., Aduke walked to Tenny's door carrying a covered plate. She knocked gently. "Tenny, my dear, I made something special for you. You've been looking thin. Come and eat." Tenny opened the door slightly, forcing a smile. "Ah, Mama Aduke, thank you, but I just finished eating." Aduke chuckled. "Don't be shy. It's just a little stew, tastes small." Her voice was calm, but her eyes glowed with a strange intensity. Tenny hesitated. "No, Ma, I'm okay." Aduke's smile tightened. "Are you afraid of me?" Tenny swallowed hard, choosing her words carefully. "No, Ma. Why would I be?" "Good," Aduke said softly, stepping closer. "Because fear can make people do foolish things, especially young girls who don't." No one to mind their business. There was silence. Only the crackle of her charcoal fire filled the air. Then Tenny said quietly, "And secrets can destroy people too." Ma Aduke's face froze. "What did you say?" Tenny stepped back, holding her phone in her hand. "I think you already know." "Mama, I saw you and I heard everything." Aduke's eyes darkened in one swift motion. She dropped the plate and lunged forward, grabbing Tenny by the arm. "You foolish girl," she hissed. "Do you know who you're dealing with? You think you can expose me and live?" Tenny's heart raced, but she didn't scream. She smiled faintly and whispered, "They already know." Ma Aduke froze. "What?" Tenny stepped back and pointed behind her. From the shadows outside the gate, flashlight beams cut through the night. Voices shouted. Security officers, neighbors, and to reporters from the local news. One of them shouted, "Madam Aduke, you are under arrest for child trafficking and illegal dealings." Aduke staggered back, her eyes wide. "No, know how?" Tenny held up her phone. "I didn't only record it, Ma. I sent it." Aduke's red scarf slipped from her head as she fell to her knees. Trembling, the crowd gathered around as the officers handcuffed her. Her eyes met Tenny's one last time, filled with rage and disbelief. "You little witch," she whispered, "you ruined Emmy." Tenny looked at her calmly. "No, Mama Aduke, you ruined yourself that night." The fire from Aduke's grill burned out for the last time. The street was silent, heavy with shock. By morning, everyone knew the truth. the sweet pump meat that had made Aduke famous was cursed with blood and lies. The nurse confessed, crying, and the town mourned the missing babies. Tenny became a voice of warning to others, especially young women. She would say, "Evil wears a smile. Always look twice," and the smoke from Aduke's stand was gone. People swore that sometimes, late at night, the wind still carried a faint smell of roasted meat followed by a soft baby's cry fading into the dark. The news spread like harmattan fire by dawn. Every corner of Ijaye town was talking. The mighty Madam Aduke, the woman everyone trusted, was exposed. When the police searched her house, they found her hidden room. Inside were strange objects, white cloths, and cold freezers filled with things too disturbing to speak of. And before the sun fully rose, Nurse Efe was also arrested. She confessed everything: how Aduke paid her for newborn babies, how she took advantage of tired mothers at the clinic, how guilt had been eating her soul for years. Both women were taken away in the same police van. Aduke sat quietly, her red scarf tied tightly, her eyes empty beside her. Nurse Efe wept bitterly. Tenny watched them from her doorway. She felt no joy, only relief and sadness for the innocent lives that had been lost. Neighbors gathered around her, whispering. Some apologized for not believing her sooner. Others thanked her for saving the town. Tenny only said softly, "I didn't do it alone. Truth has its own strength. You can cover it for a while, but you can't bury it forever." From that day, the clinic was shut down, the government sealed it, and new rules were placed to protect mothers and newborns in Ijaye. And Madame Aduke's once famous stand, the one that used to smell of pepper and fire, was now silent, covered in dust. No one dared set up a shop there again. Sometimes, on quiet nights, Tenny would pass by and stare at the empty spot where the fire once burned. She would whisper a small prayer for the babies who never got a chance to live. Then she'd walk away, her heart stronger than fear, because she had learned something powerful. Evil may hide behind a smile, but truth always finds its voice. The whole town of Ijaye had never seen a crowd that big. Men, women, students, even people from other villages filled the courtroom and spilled out onto the road. Everyone came to see how the case of Madame Aduke and Nurse Efe would end. For weeks, the trial had been the talk of the nation. Reporters camped outside the courthouse. People whispered the same words again and again. She used newborn babies for pump meat. Tenny sat quietly in the back row. Her hands folded. Her video evidence had exposed everything. Now she just wanted to see it end. The judge entered, an elderly man with sharp eyes. The courtroom went silent. He adjusted his glasses and began to read. After listening to the witnesses, reviewing the video evidence, and considering the confessions of the accused, this court finds Madame Aduke and Nurse Efe guilty of multiple counts of murder, child trafficking, and human ritual practices. The crowd gasped. Aduke didn't blink. She just stared at the floor, her hands trembling. Nurse Efe burst into warning to others, especially young women. "Tears, please, my lord. I was forced. I was threatened." But the judge's voice was firm. "You chose greed over humanity. You turned life into profit. You took what was pure and made it evil. This nation cannot tolerate such dark." He paused, looked at the women one last time, and said slowly, "This court hereby sentences both accused, Madame Aduke and Nurse Efe, to death by hanging, to serve as a warning to all who destroy innocent lives for gain." The gavel struck. Band. The crowd roared, some shouting, some crying, some thanking God. Tenny closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down her cheek, not out of pity, but from relief. It was over. Justice had spoken. Weeks later, the prison was quiet that morning. Two figures were led out, one in a faded red scarf, the other in a nurse's uniform. Their faces were pale, no words left to say. As the rope tightened, Aduke whispered faintly, "I thought no one would ever find out." And then silence. The nation moved on. But the story never died. Parents told their children, "Be careful who you trust. Not every smile means good." And somewhere in Ijaye, Tenny opened her small shop again. This time, she sold children's clothes, bright, beautiful, and full of life smiled to herself and whispered, "For every evil that ends, new life begins." Evil never stays hidden forever, no matter how carefully people try to cover their wickedness. Truth always finds a way to expose them, just like Madame Aduke and Nurse Efe. Greed destroys. The love of money made them trade innocent lives for wealth. But in the end, the same greed led them to shame, prison, and death. Listen when people warn you. Many ignored Tenny's warnings because she was young, but she saw the truth others couldn't see sometimes. The person you think is small might be the one sent to save everyone. Do not trust blindly. Evil can hide behind a friendly smile. Be careful who you eat from, who you visit, and who you trust. Not everyone who appears kind truly is. Justice may delay, but it will come. It took time, but the law caught up with them. The innocent babies they harmed finally got justice. One person's courage can change everything. Tenny's bravery saved many lives. Her courage teaches us that you don't need power or position to stand against evil. Just truth and determination. Evil may walk in daylight, but truth shines brighter than darkness. Whatever we do in secret, good or bad, one day it will speak for us. So I want to use this opportunity to tell you that Jesus loves you and he said he's coming very soon. Me and you don't know when it's coming. He can come at any time we did not expect it. Is now that is not yet come that we have the chance and the opportunity to give our life to him, accept him as our Lord and personal Savior. No matter how far you are gone with your sin, he will still forgive you. Give your life to him today. He's waiting. Thank you for watching. If you learned from this story, don't forget to subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next story.